Imagine standing on a beach 252 million years ago. The sand beneath your feet isn't sand at all. It's volcanic ash, still warm. The ocean before you stretches to the horizon, but it's the wrong color. Not blue, not green, a sickly purple-gray, like a bruise on the skin of the world. The air burns your lungs with every breath, not from heat, but from poison. Hydrogen sulfide, the smell of rotten eggs concentrated 1,000 times over. Above you, the sky glows a strange burnt orange. No birds, no insects, no sound except the wind carrying the stench of death across a planet that has just murdered 96% of all species that ever lived. This is Earth at the end of the Permian period. This is the world dinosaurs will inherit. But here's what almost no one tells you. Dinosaurs didn't conquer this world. They barely survived in it. For their first 30 million years, dinosaurs were nobody. Underdogs. Evolutionary afterthoughts hiding in the shadows of creatures far stranger, far more powerful, and far better adapted to the nightmare that Earth had become. The Triassic Period wasn't the age of dinosaurs. It was their audition, and they almost didn't get the part. Before we dive in, please consider subscribing and liking this video. Your support truly helps us continue this work. Thank you. So what was Earth actually like during the Triassic? How does a planet recover from the closest brush with total extinction it has ever known? And how did a group of scrawny, bipedal reptiles, creatures you could hold in your arms, eventually become the most successful land animals in the history of life? The answer is far stranger than you think. Because the Triassic wasn't just a period of recovery. It was a period of experimentation, of bizarre evolutionary dead ends, of worlds within worlds, each more alien than the last. And it all began with the greatest murder mystery geology has ever tried to solve. The Permian Triassic extinction event didn't happen overnight. It happened in pulses, across perhaps 60,000 years. An eye blink in geological time, an eternity in lived experience. Picture this. You're a therapsid, a mammal-like reptile the size of a large dog, living in what will one day be Siberia. Your species has thrived for millions of years. Then, one year, the ground begins to tremble. Not earthquake trembles. Constant, low-frequency vibrations that never stop. The rivers start to steam. Plants wilt even in spring. Then the sky darkens. What you're witnessing is the Siberian traps beginning to erupt. Not a single volcano, but an entire continent splitting open like overripe fruit. Magma doesn't just erupt, it floods. Lava covers an area the size of Western Europe, layer after layer, some flows more than a mile thick. But the lava isn't the killer. It's what the lava releases. As it burns through coal seams and limestone beds, it releases carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur dioxide, and chlorine gas into the atmosphere in quantities that make modern pollution look like a candle flame compared to a forest fire. The temperature rises fast. Global average temperatures spike by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius within a few thousand years. The oceans warm. And here's where it gets truly catastrophic. Warm water holds less oxygen. The deep ocean goes anoxic, lifeless. Bacteria that thrive without oxygen take over, and they produce hydrogen sulfide. Lots of it. Enough that it begins bubbling up from the ocean depths and into the atmosphere. That purple-gray ocean you imagined? That's real. That toxic sky? Also real. On land, acid rain strips forests bare. The ozone layer partially breaks down, bathing the surface in ultraviolet radiation. Wildfires rage across continents, their smoke adding to the atmospheric chaos. And through it all, The extinction doesn't happen all at once. It happens in waves. A species disappears, then another, then 10 more, then hundreds. Marine ecosystems collapse first. 96% of all marine species gone. Reefs vanish entirely. Trilobites, those armored icons of the Paleozoic, disappear forever after 300 million years of success. On land, 70% of vertebrate species die. The great sail-backed predators, gone. The vast forests of seed ferns, gone. The sprawling communities of amphibians, decimated. What's left is silence. For thousands of years, Earth is dominated by what paleontologists grimly call disaster taxa. Opportunistic species like Lystrosaurus, a pig-sized herbivore that briefly makes up 95% of all land vertebrates. Imagine a world where almost every animal you meet is the same species. That's the early Triassic. That's the blank slate. Now here's the question that should haunt you. How does life come back from that? How does evolution restart when the instruction manual has been burned? The answer lies in what happens next, in the first 10 million years of the Triassic. And it's a story written in rocks that most people have never heard of. The early Triassic world is broken. Geologically, it's a planet in shock. Pangaea, the supercontinent, dominates the globe. One massive landmass stretching from pole to pole, surrounded by a single vast ocean, Panthalassa. Imagine looking at Earth from space. Almost all the land is crammed together on one side of the planet. The other side is nothing but water. This geography creates climate extremes we can barely fathom. The interior of Pangaea is the largest desert in Earth's history. No ocean is close enough to moderate temperatures. Summer temperatures in the continental interior regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius. At night, they plummet. There are no ice caps, none. The poles are warm enough for forests. But it's the atmospheric composition that makes the early Triassic genuinely alien. Carbon dioxide levels are 10 to 15 times higher than today. Oxygen levels have crashed, dropping from around 30% in the late Permian to as low as 12 to 15% in the early Triassic. For comparison, modern sea level has 21% oxygen. 12% is what you'd experience at the summit of Mount Everest. Now imagine that's the lowlands. Imagine trying to run, to hunt, to escape danger when every breath gives you half the oxygen your ancestors relied on. This single fact shapes everything that follows. In this hot, oxygen-starved world, size becomes a liability. Large animals need more oxygen. They overheat more easily, so the survivors are small. The early Triassic is dominated by creatures that would fit in a bathtub. Lystrosaurus, that disaster taxon, weighs maybe 10 to 20 kilograms. It's a therapsid, a distant cousin of mammals, with a barrel-shaped body, stubby legs, and a beak-like snout for cropping vegetation. For millions of years, Lystrosaurus is everywhere. From Antarctica to Russia to South Africa, its fossils litter early Triassic rocks. It's the closest thing to a default animal Earth has ever had. But Lystrosaurus isn't rebuilding ecosystems. It's holding the place, waiting. And in the volcanic badlands of what is now Argentina, Tanzania, and Madagascar, something else is stirring. Something small, quick, and bipedal. The first Archosaurs are emerging, the lineage that will split into two great dynasties. Crocodiles on one branch, dinosaurs, and birds on the other. But in the early Triassic, they're nobody special. Just another group of small reptiles trying to make a living in hell. The Archosaurs have a few tricks though. Tricks that will matter later. Their hips are slightly different, built for a more upright stance. Their ankles are more flexible, giving them a longer stride. Some of them are experimenting with bipedalism, walking on their hind legs, freeing their forelimbs for grasping. And deep in their throats and lungs, evolution is tinkering with something extraordinary, a more efficient respiratory system. While other reptiles breathe in and out like bellows, these early Archosaurs are developing a flow-through lung system. Air sacs that allow fresh oxygen to flow continuously through the lungs, even during exhalation. It's the same system birds have today. In a low oxygen world, this is like having a turbocharger, but it will take tens of millions of years before that advantage pays off. For now, the early Triassic belongs to nobody. It's a world waiting for ecosystems to reassemble, for niches to open, for evolution to remember how to build complexity. And then, around 247 million years ago, something shifts. The climate stabilizes slightly. Oxygen levels tick upward. Vegetation begins to diversify, and predators return. Enter the Rauisuchians. If you've never heard of them, you should have. Imagine a crocodile that walks on straight legs like a mammal, with a skull like a tyrannosaur, and you're halfway there. Rauisuchians are Archosaurs, but they're not dinosaurs. They're something else, an evolutionary experiment in land-based superpredators. Some species grow to 6 meters long. They walk upright with their legs tucked directly beneath their bodies, not sprawled out to the sides. Their jaws are lined with serrated blade-like teeth. They are fast, efficient killing machines. And for the next 30 million years, they will dominate Triassic ecosystems. Not dinosaurs, Rauisuchians. Then there are the Atosaurs, armored herbivores that look like a mashup of an armadillo and a crocodile, covered head to tail in bony plates. They root through soil for tubers and roots, their pig-like snouts overturning dirt. There are Phytosaurs, crocodile mimics so convincing that for decades paleontologists thought they were crocodiles. They lurk in rivers, their eyes and nostrils perched on top of elongated skulls, waiting for prey to come drink. There are cynodonts, advanced therapsids, some no bigger than shrews, with whiskers and possibly fur, hiding in burrows and hunting insects by night. These little creatures are our ancestors, the lineage that will eventually become mammals. But in the Triassic, they're barely hanging on. And then there are dinosaurs. Finally. The first true dinosaurs appear around 235 million years ago in the Middle Triassic, and they are small, unimpressive. Eoraptor, one of the earliest known dinosaurs, is about 1 meter long and weighs maybe 10 kilograms. It's bipedal, quick, with grasping hands and a mouthful of small, sharp teeth. It eats insects, small reptiles, maybe some plants. It's an omnivore, a generalist, doing whatever it takes to survive. Herrerasaurus, slightly larger and more predatory, reaches 3 meters, but it's still dwarfed by the Rauisuchians. For tens of millions of years, dinosaurs remain marginal, rare fossils in a world ruled by others. Why? Why didn't dinosaurs explode onto the scene immediately? The answer is competition. The Triassic is crowded. Every ecological niche is occupied by something else, something often better suited to the environment. Rauisuchians are better apex predators. Etosaurs are better armored herbivores. Cynodonts are better at being small and nocturnal. Dinosaurs are stuck in the middle. too specialized to be generalists, too generalized to dominate any one niche. They're the middle children of the Triassic, overlooked and underestimated. But evolution doesn't care about dominance in the present. It cares about survival across deep time. And dinosaurs, with their upright stance, their proto-flow-through lungs, their grasping hands and bipedal speed, are quietly building an evolutionary toolkit that will matter when the world changes again. Because the Triassic, for all its stability, is not finished with catastrophe. Around 232 million years ago, the climate destabilizes again. This event is called the Carnian Pluvial episode, and it's one of the strangest chapters in Earth's history. For about 2 million years, the global climate flips. Pangaea's interior, that vast desert, suddenly becomes wet, humid. Monsoonal rains flood regions that haven't seen water in millions of years. Lakes appear in the heart of the supercontinent. Vegetation explodes. Ferns, conifers, cycads spreading across previously barren land. And with the plants come new opportunities. Herbivores diversify. Predators follow. Ecosystems reorganize. No one is entirely sure what caused the Carnian Pluvial episode. Volcanic eruptions in what is now British Columbia, the Wrangellia terrain flood basalts, are the leading suspect, pumping carbon dioxide and moisture into the atmosphere. Whatever the cause, the effect is profound. When the rains finally end and the climate stabilizes again, the world is different, more productive, more complex. And dinosaurs, those evolutionary underdogs, are beginning to find their footing. Fossil sites from the late Triassic tell a new story. In Ishigualasto, Argentina, a place known as the Valley of the Moon, we find richer, more diverse dinosaur fossils. Herrerasaurus is still there, but now it's joined by others. Small ornithischians, early relatives of the animals that will one day become Stegosaurus and Triceratops, are nibbling on low-growing plants. Sauropodomorphs, long-necked herbivores, are starting to appear, still bipedal, still modest in size, but hinting at the giants to come. Yet even now, dinosaurs are not dominant. Walk through a late Triassic forest in what is now New Mexico, and the largest animal you'll see is still a Rauisuchian. The most common herbivore is still an Atasaur. The nighttime soundscape is still dominated by cynodonts and early mammals scurrying through the underbrush. Dinosaurs are diversifying, yes. They're innovating, yes. But they're still supporting actors in someone else's play. Then, at the end of the Triassic, 201 million years ago, the world ends. Again. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event isn't as severe as the Permian Triassic. Only about 70 to 75% of species vanish, but it's enough, and crucially, it's selective. The victims are strange. Large Archosaurs, Rauisuchians, Atasaurs, most phytosaurs are wiped out, almost completely. Therapsids, already diminished, are pushed to the margins. Entire lineages that dominated for 30 million years disappear within a geological instant. The cause, once again, appears to be volcanism. The Central Atlantic magmatic province erupts as Pangaea begins to split apart as the Atlantic Ocean starts to open. Lava floods cover an area of 11 million square kilometers. Carbon dioxide floods the atmosphere. Temperatures spike. Ocean chemistry goes haywire. And in the aftermath, when the dust settles and the survivors emerge, blinking into the early Jurassic sun, the world has new rulers. Dinosaurs. Not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter, but because they were adaptable, Because their respiratory systems could handle fluctuating oxygen levels. Because their upright gait was energy efficient. Because they'd spent 30 million years in the margins, evolving, diversifying, waiting for their chance. And when that chance came, when the giants fell, dinosaurs stepped into the vacuum and never looked back. But here's the haunting part. It didn't have to be dinosaurs. In another timeline, in another roll of evolution's dice, the Rauisuchians might have survived. The Cynodonts might have grown large. The Triassic might have ended with a completely different set of winners. The fact that dinosaurs rose to dominance wasn't destiny. It was contingency, luck, the right traits at the right catastrophic moment. So let's step back and really look at what the Triassic world was. Not just as a list of creatures and events, but as a lived reality, as a place you could walk through, breathe in, survive in, if you were lucky. Because the Triassic wasn't one world. It was many worlds, stacked on top of each other, separated by altitude, latitude, and time. Start with the coasts. The shorelines of Pangaea are where life clings most desperately in the early Triassic. Here, the ocean moderates temperature extremes. Moisture from Panthalassa brings seasonal rains. Vegetation recovers first along these margins. Low, scrubby conifers, seed ferns struggling back from near extinction, and vast carpets of ferns. Ferns are the great opportunists of the plant world. They reproduce through spores, not seeds, and they colonize disturbed ground faster than almost anything else. After the Permian apocalypse, ferns cover the coastal lowlands like a green bandage over a planetary wound. In these fern prairies, Lystrosaurus herds move like living lawnmowers, cropping vegetation down to nubs. They dig burrows with their forelimbs, retreating underground during the hottest part of the day. Fossil evidence shows these burrows sometimes contain multiple individuals, parents and juveniles huddled together. It's a survival strategy borrowed from mammals that won't exist for another 100 million years. In the rivers and coastal shallows, small temnospondyls, amphibians that look like salamanders crossed with crocodiles, hunt fish and scavenge carrion. They're relics of the Permian, holdovers from an older world, and they'll persist throughout the Triassic, refusing to surrender to extinction. Now move inland, away from the coast, into the interior of Pangaea. Within a few hundred kilometers, the world transforms. Rainfall drops off. Vegetation thins. Temperatures soar. By the time you reach the heart of the supercontinent, you're standing in the most extreme desert Earth has ever produced. Daytime temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Nighttime temperatures can drop below freezing. There is no standing water for thousands of kilometers. The soil is red, oxidized, baked hard as ceramic. The rocks are sandstone and mudstone, deposited by ancient rivers that flowed only during rare, catastrophic floods. And yet, life persists even here. Burrows riddle the fossil record, evidence of animals that spent the hottest hours underground, emerging only at dawn and dusk. Small Archosaurs, no larger than house cats, scurry across the hardpan, hunting insects and lizards. Cynodonts, covered in sparse fur, hunt by night when temperatures drop. Plants are rare, but where water collects in seasonal pliers, tough cycads and conifers put down roots, their waxy leaves reducing water loss. These are the survivors of survivors, species adapted to conditions that would kill most modern animals within hours. Then there are the highlands. Pangaea isn't flat. Mountain ranges rise along collision zones where ancient continents fuse together. The Alleghenian orogeny has built mountains in what will become the Appalachians. The Hercynian mountains stretch across what will be Central Europe. At higher elevations, temperatures are cooler. Oxygen levels, already low, drop further. But these highlands become refuges, places where relict species from the Permian cling to existence, isolated from the lowland heat and the new species evolving below. Paleontologists have found Triassic fossil sites in Argentina, South Africa, Antarctica, and India that preserve highland ecosystems, and they're bizarre. Species that appear nowhere else. Archaic therapsids that should have gone extinct millions earlier. Plants with no close relatives. These highland refugees are evolutionary islands, preserving snapshots of worlds that no longer exist anywhere else. And some of the early dinosaurs appear first in these highlands, suggesting they may have originated in cooler, marginal environments before spreading into the lowlands. Now, let's talk about the ocean. Because while the land is recovering, the ocean is undergoing its own strange rebirth. The early Triassic seas are barren. Reefs are gone. Most predatory fish are gone. The water is warm, oxygen poor, and chemically unstable. But by the Middle Triassic, around 245 million years ago, something remarkable happens. Marine reptiles return. The first ichthyosaurs appear, streamlined, dolphin-like reptiles with enormous eyes and powerful tails. They're not evolved from aquatic ancestors. They're land reptiles that have gone back to the sea, adapting to an aquatic lifestyle within a few million years. Early ichthyosaurs are small, clumsy, still experimenting with body plans. But by the late Triassic, they've become apex predators, some species exceeding 15 meters in length. They hunt fish, squid, and each other. Their fossils show live birth, fully aquatic reproduction, no need to return to land. Then come the placodont's, bizarre armored reptiles that look like turtles crossed with walruses. They crush shellfish with broad, flat teeth, thriving in shallow coastal waters. There are nothosaurs, long-necked ambush predators that lurk in murky estuaries. And at the very end of the Triassic, the first plesiosaurs appear, long-necked, barrel-bodied reptiles that will dominate Jurassic seas. The ocean is being repopulated, not by descendants of Permian species, but by new invasions from the land. Its evolution starting over, improvising solutions to old problems. And here's a detail that should astonish you. The first marine reptiles appear before the first large dinosaurs. The ocean recovers faster than the land. Why? Likely because marine ecosystems have shorter generation times. Fish reproduce quickly, invertebrates even faster. Evolution can experiment more rapidly in water than on land. By the time dinosaurs are still figuring out how to compete with Rauisuchians, the ocean is already hosting complex food webs with multiple trophic levels. But let's return to land, to the late Triassic, because this is where the story gets truly strange. Around 230 million years ago, Pangaea begins to fracture. Not visibly, not yet, but deep in the mantle, plumes of superheated rock are rising. Rift valleys start forming, pulling the supercontinent apart. Volcanic activity increases, and the climate, already extreme, becomes unstable. This is the world of the Chinle Formation in the American Southwest, one of the richest late Triassic fossil deposits on Earth. Picture what is now Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. In the Triassic, it's a vast floodplain, crisscrossed by meandering rivers. Seasonal monsoons bring torrential rains, flooding the lowlands, depositing layers of colorful sediment: red, purple, green, gray. These are the famous painted desert rocks, and they preserve an ecosystem teetering on the edge of transformation. In the Chinle, we find phytosaurs, those crocodile mimics, lurking in every river. Some species have slender snouts for catching fish. Others have broad, heavy skulls for crushing turtles. They're the dominant aquatic predators, and their fossils are so common that paleontologists use them as index fossils to date rock layers. On land, etosaurs are everywhere. Some species are small pig-sized diggers. Others, like Desmatosuchus, grow to 5 meters long and sport massive shoulder spikes, probably for defense or display. They're the armored tanks of the late Triassic, and they occupy the large herbivore niche that will later belong to sauropods and ceratopsians. And prowling through this world are the Rauisuchians. Postosuchus, one of the largest, reaches 5 meters in length and stands 2 meters tall at the hip. It walks on straight legs like a theropod dinosaur, but it's not a dinosaur. It's a crocodile-like Archosaur. Its skull is massive, filled with serrated teeth. It's an ambush predator, likely hunting archosaurs and early dinosaurs. Fossil trackways show it could run, not sprint, but move with purpose. For 25 million years, Postosuchus and its relatives are the apex predators of Pangaea. Dinosaurs are not. So where are the dinosaurs in this world? They're there, but you have to look carefully. Coelophysis, one of the most completely known Triassic dinosaurs, is slender, bipedal, about 3 meters long. It weighs perhaps 20 kilograms, about as much as a large turkey. It hunts in packs, possibly, taking down small prey through coordination rather than raw power. Fossil evidence from Ghost Ranch, New Mexico, shows hundreds of Coelophysis skeletons jumbled together, possibly killed in a flash flood. Some specimens preserve stomach contents, small reptiles, fish, even juvenile Coelophysis. Cannibalism, perhaps, or scavenging. Either way, it's a portrait of animals living on the edge, taking every opportunity. There are also early sauropodomorphs appearing now. Plateosaurus, from what is now Germany, reaches up to 10 meters in length, the first truly large dinosaur. But it's still not the largest animal in its ecosystem. It's a browser, reaching into trees for vegetation, walking on all fours but capable of rearing up on its hind legs. Its teeth are small, leaf-shaped, designed for cropping plants, not chewing them. Like modern birds, Plateosaurus probably swallowed gastroliths, stomach stones, to grind food internally. It's herbivorous, but it's not dominant. It shares its world with enormous Rauisuchians and vast herds of itosaurs. And here's the critical point. Dinosaurs are diversifying faster than other groups. Rauisuchians have a few species, highly specialized for specific niches. Etosaurs have a dozen or so species, all variations on the armored herbivore theme. But dinosaurs, they're experimenting. Carnivores, herbivores, omnivores. Small, medium, starting to push toward large. Bipedal, quadrupedal, switching between the two. Fast runners, ambush predators, high browsers. They're not dominant, but they're adaptable. And in evolution, adaptability is a long-term investment. Then we reach 201.3 million years ago, the Triassic-Jurassic boundary, and everything changes. The central Atlantic magmatic province begins erupting as Pangaea splits along what will become the mid-Atlantic ridge. This isn't a single volcano. It's a series of massive fissure eruptions stretching from what is now Brazil to West Africa to eastern North America. Lava floods cover an area larger than modern Canada. The eruptions last for approximately 600,000 years, pulsing in phases. Each pulse pumps gigatons of carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and methane into the atmosphere. Global temperatures spike by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius within a few thousand years. The ocean acidifies as atmospheric carbon dioxide dissolves into seawater, lowering pH. Coral reefs, which had been slowly recovering throughout the late Triassic, collapse again. Ammonites, those spiral-shelled cephalopods, suffer massive losses. On land, the large Archosaurs are hit hardest. Rauisuchians vanish. Atosaurs vanish. Most phytosaurs vanish. The large herbivorous therapsids, gone. Entire families of reptiles that dominated for 30 million years disappear from the fossil record. Why are dinosaurs spared? We don't know for certain, but hypotheses abound. Their respiratory systems, those proto-air sacs, may have given them an advantage in handling rapid environmental changes. Their upright stance is more energy efficient than the sprawling or semi-upright postures of many other reptiles, meaning they need less food to survive. Their reproductive strategies may have been more flexible. Some evidence suggests dinosaurs had faster growth rates and shorter generation times than their competitors, allowing them to adapt more quickly. Or it may simply be luck. Sometimes, extinction is random. The species that happen to occupy the right place at the right time survive. The others don't. Whatever the reason, when the early Jurassic dawns, the world is quieter, emptier, and dinosaurs are the largest animals left standing. Within 5 million years, they'll dominate every terrestrial ecosystem on the planet. Within 20 million years, sauropods will reach sizes that strain belief. Animals weighing 50, 70, 100 tons, the largest land animals ever to walk the Earth. Theropods will become increasingly sophisticated, eventually giving rise to birds. Ornithischians will radiate into an explosion of forms: armored, horned, duck-billed, every imaginable variation on the herbivore theme. But all of that, the Jurassic, the Cretaceous, the 135 million years of dinosaur dominance, rests on what happened in the Triassic. On 30 million years of being nobody, of losing again and again to competitors that seemed superior, of surviving in the margins while the spotlight belonged to others. There's a lesson here, one that reaches far beyond paleontology. Success in the present doesn't guarantee success in the future. The Rauisuchians were perfectly adapted to the late Triassic world, and that perfection killed them when the world changed. Dinosaurs were generalists, adaptable, not perfectly suited to any one niche, but capable of shifting when conditions shifted. In evolution, as in life, the future often belongs not to the strongest, but to the most flexible. Now let's talk about what we've learned recently, because the story of the Triassic is being rewritten as we speak. For decades, paleontologists believed dinosaurs originated in the southern hemisphere, in what is now South America and Africa. The oldest known dinosaur fossils came from Argentina, Herrerasaurus, Eoraptor, and others from the Ishigualasto Formation. But in the last 15 years, that picture has become far more complex. Fossils from the Manda beds of Tanzania, dated to around 240 million years ago, have revealed a creature called Nyasasaurus parringtoni. It's not quite a dinosaur, it lacks some of the defining skeletal features, but it's astonishingly close. If Nyasasaurus is a dinosaur, It pushes the origin of the group back by 10 million years into the Middle Triassic. If it's not, it's a dinosauromorph, a near dinosaur, which means true dinosaurs were evolving right alongside it. Either way, the implication is clear. Dinosaurs didn't suddenly appear fully formed. They emerged gradually from a broader radiation of small bipedal archosaurs experimenting with upright postures and grasping hands. Meanwhile, discoveries in Poland, Germany, and North America have revealed Triassic ecosystems far more diverse than we imagined. The Grabfeld Formation in Germany has yielded tracks, lots of tracks, from animals that walked on two legs, leaving three-toed footprints identical to those of theropod dinosaurs. But no bones. For years, these tracks were a mystery. Were they made by dinosaurs that simply weren't being preserved as fossils? Or by something else? Dinosaur mimics, convergent evolution? Recent finds suggest the former. Small theropod fossils are now turning up in late Triassic rocks of Europe and North America, places where dinosaurs were once thought to be rare or absent. The picture emerging is one of a global radiation. By the late Triassic, dinosaurs were present on every continent, in nearly every environment. They weren't dominant, but they were everywhere, quietly accumulating diversity. And then there's the question of endothermy, warm-bloodedness. For decades, scientists debated whether dinosaurs were ectothermic like modern reptiles, relying on external heat sources, or endothermic like birds and mammals, generating their own body heat. The answer, we now know, is complicated. Bone histology, the microscopic structure of fossil bones, reveals growth patterns. Fast growth, with lots of blood vessels and dense bone tissue, suggests high metabolic rates. Slow growth, with growth rings like tree rings, suggests slower metabolisms. Triassic dinosaurs show intermediate patterns. They grew faster than modern reptiles, but slower than modern birds. They likely had metabolic rates somewhere between ectothermy and full endothermy, what some scientists call mesothermy. This makes sense in a low-oxygen world. Full endothermy is expensive. It requires constant food intake and efficient oxygen delivery. In the Triassic, that's a hard sell. But a moderately elevated metabolism, enough to stay active at dawn and dusk, enough to outcompete sluggish ectotherms in cool conditions, that's a survivable advantage. And over tens of millions of years, as oxygen levels slowly recovered, dinosaurs fine-tuned their metabolisms, eventually achieving the high-energy lifestyles we see in their Jurassic and Cretaceous descendants. There's also new work on Triassic climate modeling. Sophisticated computer simulations now reconstruct atmospheric circulation, temperature gradients, and precipitation patterns across Pangaea with startling precision. These models confirm what the rocks suggested. The Triassic was a world of extremes. Coastal zones experienced monsoonal climates with wet and dry seasons of staggering intensity. The interior was a mega desert, but not a static one. It shifted, expanded, and contracted with long-term climate cycles, driven by orbital variations and volcanic pulses. One recent study modeled the Carnian Pluvial episode and found that the increased rainfall wasn't uniform. The western edge of Pangaea, what is now Western North America, got wetter. The eastern edge, Europe and North Africa, stayed relatively dry. This patchy climate change may explain why dinosaur diversity increases more rapidly in some regions than others. Evolution doesn't happen evenly. It happens where conditions create opportunities. And here's a genuinely astonishing discovery from 2020: fossil evidence of Triassic social behavior. In Poland, a bone bed containing dozens of individuals of a small dinosauromorph called Silesaurus opelensis was found. These animals died together, likely in a drought or flash flood. But the age distribution is telling. Juveniles, subadults, and adults all mixed together. This suggests they lived in groups, possibly multi-generational herds. Social behavior, once thought to be a late innovation in dinosaur evolution, may have been present from the very beginning. Why would social behavior evolve so early? In a harsh, unpredictable environment, there's safety in numbers. Groups can detect predators more effectively. They can mob attackers. Juveniles can learn from adults. And in a low-oxygen world, where every animal is operating at the edge of its metabolic capacity, cooperation might mean the difference between extinction and survival. Now let's talk about what's coming. What missions, what technologies, what discoveries might rewrite the Triassic story yet again? In 2025, the International Continental Scientific Drilling Program is planning to core deep into the Newark Basin in New Jersey. This basin contains one of the most complete records of late Triassic climate on Earth. Layers of lake sediments deposited continuously for 30 million years. By drilling through these layers and analyzing them at high resolution, scientists hope to reconstruct climate changes year by year, capturing the Carnian Pluvial episode and the Triassic-Jurassic extinction in unprecedented detail. They're looking for cyclic patterns tied to Earth's orbital variations, Milankovitch cycles, that might explain why extinctions happened when they did. In Argentina, new expeditions to the Ischigualasto and Los Colorados formations are using ground-penetrating radar and drone-based LiDAR to map fossil-bearing layers before excavation. This technology allows paleontologists to see bones still buried in the rock, to map entire bone beds in 3 dimensions, to understand how animals died and were preserved. One recent scan revealed a mass death assemblage of early sauropodomorphs, dozens of individuals, all juveniles, clustered in what was once a dry riverbed. They likely died of thirst during a drought, and their bones may reveal growth rates, diets, and stress markers that tell us how these animals lived. There's also a growing push to sequence ancient proteins from Triassic fossils. DNA doesn't survive that long. It degrades within a few million years at most. But proteins, particularly collagen from bones, can persist for hundreds of millions of years if conditions are right. In 2022, scientists reported recovering protein fragments from a 200-million-year-old dinosaur rib. The sequences were fragmentary, but they were enough to confirm the animal's evolutionary relationships. If this technique can be refined, we might be able to reconstruct the molecular biology of Triassic dinosaurs, understand their physiology, their evolutionary relationships, even their colors and metabolic pathways, directly from their remains. And then there's the search for Triassic amber. Amber, fossilized tree resin, preserves soft tissues, DNA, even entire organisms in exquisite detail. Jurassic and Cretaceous ambers have yielded feathered dinosaur tails, insects, flowers. But Triassic amber is rare. Most Triassic conifers didn't produce resin in large quantities. However, in 2023, a new deposit was discovered in the Italian Dolomites, dating to around 230 million years ago. Early analysis has revealed ancient mites, pollen, and fungal spores. If larger pieces are found, we might get our first direct glimpse of Triassic soft tissues, skin, feathers, if they existed that early, even gut contents. But perhaps the most profound shift is happening in how we think about the Triassic. For generations, it was dismissed as a transitional period, a mere prelude to the real age of dinosaurs in the Jurassic and Cretaceous. Now we understand it was anything but. The Triassic was a world of extremes, a laboratory of evolution, a testing ground where life experimented with every possible solution to survival in a broken world. Dinosaurs didn't conquer that world. They endured it. They adapted to it. They waited. And that patience, that flexibility, that willingness to remain small and marginal while others took the spotlight, that's what allowed them to inherit the Earth when the spotlight burned out. So what does the Triassic teach us? What can we take from this deep alien past into our present? First, it teaches us humility. The rulers of the Triassic, Rauisuchians, Etosaurs, the great therapsids, seemed invincible. They were larger, stronger, better adapted than the scrawny little dinosaurs hiding in their shadows. And yet, when the world changed, size and strength meant nothing. Adaptability meant everything. The lesson is clear. Dominance is temporary. The future belongs to those who can change. Second, it teaches us that recovery is possible. The end Permian extinction came closer to sterilizing Earth than any event before or since. 96% of species gone. Ecosystems reduced to rubble. Oceans poisoned. Atmosphere toxic. And yet, within 10 million years, a blink in geological time, life not only recovered, but diversified beyond what came before. The Triassic world was stranger, more varied, more inventive than the Permian ever was. Catastrophe doesn't end evolution, it accelerates it. Third, it teaches us patience. Dinosaurs didn't become dinosaurs overnight. They didn't explode into dominance. They spent 30 million years in the margins, evolving, experimenting, failing, trying again. They became 100 different things before they became the thing we remember. Success isn't a moment. It's a process, played out across deep time, invisible to those living through it. And finally, it teaches us that history is contingent. Dinosaurs didn't have to win. In another world, with slightly different volcanic timing, slightly different climate shifts, Rauisuchians might have survived and dinosaurs might have gone extinct. The Jurassic and Cretaceous might have belonged to giant crocodile-like Archosaurs instead. Birds might never have evolved. Humans might never have existed. The fact that we're here, pondering the Triassic, is the result of a chain of accidents stretching back 250 million years. We are not inevitable. We are astonishingly, impossibly lucky. Let's return one last time to that beach, 252 million years ago. The purple ocean, the toxic sky, the smell of sulfur. You're standing on a world that has just tried to kill itself and almost succeeded. Behind you, the interior of Pangaea stretches away, empty and hostile. Before you, the ocean laps at poisoned shores. Nothing moves, nothing sings. The Permian is over. The Triassic is beginning. Now imagine stepping forward, not in space, but in time. 10 million years. The ocean is clearer. Fish are returning. On shore, Lystrosaurus herds move through fern prairies. 20 million years. Archosaurs prowl the lowlands. Cynodonts hunt in the underbrush. 30 million years. Rauisuchians dominate the rivers. Etosaurs root through volcanic soils. And somewhere, in the shadows, A small bipedal creature with grasping hands and quick eyes watches and waits. 35 million years. Volcanoes erupt again. The climate shifts, the giants fall, and the small creature steps into the light. Not because it was destined, not because it was superior, but because it was ready when the moment came. That's the Triassic. That's the birth of dinosaurs. Not a triumph, not a conquest, but a long, patient wait through a broken world, preparing for a future no one could predict. And when that future arrived, they were ready. The Triassic is over. The Jurassic is beginning. And the age of dinosaurs, 135 million years of dominance, the most successful reign of any land animals in Earth's history, is about to unfold. But it all started here, in the shadows, in the margins, in a world too hot and too strange for anything else to survive. That's where greatness comes from, not from dominance, from endurance, from the willingness to be small, to wait, and to adapt. The Triassic taught dinosaurs that lesson, and because they learned it, they ruled the world. What will our lesson be? What world are we building, and who will inherit it when we're gone? The Triassic has no answers, but it asks the question. And that question echoes across 200 million years, as urgent today as it was then. The Earth has died before, and it has come back. Different, yes. Strange, yes. But alive, gloriously, improbably, stubbornly alive. That's the real miracle of the Triassic. Not the dinosaurs. The resilience, the refusal of life to surrender, even when the planet itself becomes an enemy. So when you look at a bird, a sparrow, a pigeon, a crow, remember where it came from. Remember the Triassic beach, the toxic ocean, the long wait in the shadows. Remember that every living thing carries the Triassic inside it, coded into genes and bones and the deep rhythms of breath. We are all children of catastrophe. We are all survivors of worlds that no longer exist. And that, more than anything else, is what the Triassic teaches us. Not how to dominate, how to endure, how to wait, how to be ready when the world changes. Because it always does. And when it does, the future belongs not to the mighty, but to the adaptable. Not to the rulers of the present, but to the underdogs waiting in the wings. The Triassic is over, but its lesson endures. And somewhere in the margins of our own world, the next great dynasty is waiting its turn. Just as the dinosaurs once waited in the shadows of the Rauisuchians, something else is waiting now. Watching, learning, preparing for a future we can't imagine. That's the story of the Triassic. That's the birth of dinosaurs. And that's the shape of deep time, a patient, ruthless engine that rewards not strength, but survival. Not perfection, but adaptability. Not dominance today, but readiness for tomorrow. The Earth has ended many times. It will end again. But life continues. Different, strange, improvised from the wreckage of what came before. That's the promise of the Triassic. That's the hope written in 200-million-year-old stone. We live in a world built by underdogs. We are the descendants of creatures that survived when giants fell. We carry the Triassic in our bones. And when we look up at the stars or down at the rocks beneath our feet, we're looking at the same question the dinosaurs faced 250 million years ago. What kind of world are we building? And who will inherit it when we're gone? The Triassic has no answer, but it shows us the question is eternal, and the only way to answer it is to survive long enough to find out.